I do not consent. I notice
Just
it.
by
I
being
notice it
on
said
the call, you are consenting because you have the ability to leave. You are not
it.
being forced on the call.
I mean, here's the thing though. It held that it went 3, 2, 1, and it like won
Hmm.
forever. Just saying.
You have the ability to leave. Press that leave button.
I can't. I have my hand on my phone now, so it's over. But yeah, no, this is welcome to another edition of Web News. We're still kind of sorting this format out, but this is our short form video content, also audio content. If you want to listen to it as well, if you're listening to us now, fantastic. But basically, we just kind of talk about something that's like related, semi-related, or just something we wanted to talk about. So it doesn't necessarily have to be web development, web design, or small business. And I'm doing something new today, so just kind of to briefly talk about some tech, because how we want this show to go, actually, but like without this tech talk, I guess, is like a very brief and concise like prompt for us to start talking, and then we're just going to talk. But I'm trying something pretty interesting today that I thought I would share on the show today. I am using that like link to Windows or link to PC feature, and I have just like a custom built PC, and I have a Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, and I'm using the S23 Ultra as my webcam. So I'm just holding it right now, so it's going to be kind of shaky cam, but I mean, I don't know, looks pretty good. It's kinda interesting. I just wanted to try it out for today. It's, I can put blur on here. I can turn off and on the blur. I can even pause the video. I can change the camera to the front or back, so that'd be cool for tutorials and things like that if I had, like, a sheet of paper I wanted to show you. But just I don't know, it's cool. So, maybe we'll use this in the future. I do obviously have a regular webcam, but just for fun. But the
I,
topic
I
for today. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I do think with the like using a phone as a webcam, that's kind of a hack because like a good hack because the camera on a phone is 90% of the time, or maybe even 99% of the time, going to be way better than whatever webcam you have, especially if you're using like a laptop or like a cheap webcam. The phone camera is going to be like night and day difference. And even with now, like Matt's quality, like the brightness level, I think everyone will agree is like 100 times better, and the quality also is better. So I think it's a good idea. I
Funny
think it would be
funny
cool
little
to get
total,
it mounted.
well, it'd be cool to get mounted, but this is actually worse quality than normal because it got really humid one day and my screen protector shifted to the left, and my screen protector is actually covering the webcam, the
Mm.
front facing camera on my phone right now. So it's actually blurrier than it would normally be. So little tidbit. So it'll actually look even better once my new screen protector comes in. So pretty good. But no, yeah, Mike's right. Maybe I'll mount it and sort that out. But today's topic for the web news is I want to talk about what you do when you're coding, and specifically, do you listen to anything? Do you watch
Mhm.
anything? Why? Why not? Do you sometimes listen? Do you sometimes watch? Do you do both? Whatever. Mike, why don't you kick that off?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good question, and I have a variety of answers to it. It depends. A lot of times when I'm coding, and especially deep coding, I'm actually in pure silence.
Okay.
Um, I don't put on a podcast. I don't put on any music. I don't put on like a game soundtrack. Nothing. Like I've tried pretty much everything in my like in the past 10 or 15 or 12 years that we've been coding. But nothing usually is enough to get me in a focus zone. And the problem for me is this. If I'm listening to something, I have a harder time getting focused, so getting in the groove, like getting the ball rolling. Once
Okay.
the ball is rolling, it doesn't matter what's playing. Like I could be watching a video technically. I could be doing like anything could be playing, a podcast could be playing. Once the ball is rolling, it doesn't distract me. The problem is that initial first few minutes or like 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it takes me to get into deep work zone. I find that challenging with anything. Now, if I'm doing busy work, that a lot of times I can throw something on. But I'm curious, like on your end, for deep work, do you have any degradation in like getting into a deep work with something on? Because I know you do like to have like a show on or something.
Um, For me, it's so it's weird. So, I've talked about this on the show a couple times. So I definitely watch a show. It's rarely a show that I have seen, or sorry, it rarely is a show that I have not seen. It's usually something that I've seen repeatedly, and usually I've seen it repeatedly because I use it as background noise. So I have like 5 or 6 shows that I'll just kind of flip around. I'll watch like Hotel Hell or maybe some Kitchen Nightmares, stuff like that. Reality TV that kind of interested me the first time I watched it. Right, that's important to me. But then it's now like, okay, I've seen that, so I can like walk away and leave it playing if I want. But the big thing for me is actually I constantly pause. So, like, I'll be, like, doing something and I'll, like, "Oh, shoot," like, "Is this array right?" Or, "Why isn't this image uploading?" or something, and I'll, like, just I have media controls on my keyboard, and I actually just, like, quickly pause and, like, kinda think for a second, "Okay, we're good," and spin it back up. For me, it it helps me like regulate my thoughts as well because for some reason, if I'm too deep in my deep work, I start getting really worked up. Like it's like I start like worrying almost about my productivity level or something where I'm like, okay, I should be like firing through this, I should be like working through this, and I start getting like super anxious about it or something. I don't really know how to describe that. So for me, it's just like it's almost like I can take a break whenever I want, and I literally do that just by looking over to the left. And I either have a little smart display on my desk, which I can use if I don't need the second monitor, or if I need the second monitor for work, or I can just, obviously have the show on the second monitor. So for me, it's just more like, I don't know whether I need that background noise to just be like, okay, like, this is like really frustrating me, turn over, watch the show for a couple minutes, turn back, or like there's a funny moment, I'll like, and I remember it, I'll turn and watch it. But I'll even have a show on while editing the podcast sometimes. And it's paused most of the time though. Like obviously I have to listen to the podcast. But if it's like doing something like, oh, I need to, set an EQ level, and it's not so much so bad anymore, but I had an older computer just like last year or maybe the year before, but when I had my older computer, it would take a while to sometimes put some of those effects in. And I was just like, okay, like I'm just kind of like sitting around. So I would just like, hit the play button on my keyboard, watch the show for literally 2 minutes and then pause it again. Um, so it's weird, but it does work for me.
Yeah. And I think it's gonna be very vastly different for everyone as well, and I have a similar thing I sometimes do where if I do end up watching something, and my head starts to spin and I start to, like, start getting into deep work mode, I'll pause it as well, or I'll turn it off, inherently because, like, I just can't focus on I think
Mhm.
I'm a bad multitasker. I think that's what it comes down to in the end. Like, I just suck at doing 2 things at once, and I'm bad also at context switching. So really, for you, it sounds like you go back and forth pretty easily and you can like play and pause and play and pause. That's my intention sometimes. So sometimes my intention will be like, okay, I'll just pause it, get into deep work, and then I'll turn it back on. But 99% of the time when I'm in deep work, I forget that there's even another screen there and I'm focused on one thing at a time. And, 2 hours later goes by and I'm in silence for 2 hours. So I've kinda given up, for the most part on, like, having something on. Now, I will say, sometimes when I'm doing work that I don't like, specifically, like, busy work, or if it's, like, a really hard problem and I need a break, but I still wanna kind of chip away at it a little bit, that's when I will throw something on. And I'll throw something on, and it will affect my productivity, but it'll make it at least somewhat enjoyable, somewhat like, somewhat tolerable when I'm doing stuff that I don't like. Doesn't happen too often, but it's just like a mechanism that I use to make some parts of my work more enjoyable. And I think like it's a benefit that we can do that. Not most jobs wouldn't allow you to do that. Obviously, like you suck, like you hate the job, you have to whatever, you stick through it and you can't really do anything about it. So
Right,
it's a
right.
nice bonus of being able to work remotely, one, to being a developer without too much like micromanagement and stuff like that. So it happens sometimes. I'll throw something on. I think it does affect me in a terms of productivity, so I don't do it very often, but it sometimes you need a little bit of a break, and even during work hours, that's something that I do.
Well, data entry is probably something that you would use a bunch in because that's the first thing that always comes to mind for me is sometimes you're just like, okay, this database of numbers or figures or whatever it is just doesn't exist. A classic one that happens to me all the time is I'll make like a CMS collection in say like a Webflow, or I'll make a CMS, not a CMS collection, but like a post type in like WordPress, and someone's like, okay, like I want, all of my like rentable rooms, for example, listed in this thing, and then we set things to vacant, not vacant, whatever inside. And so I'll create the post type, and then I'll create the fields, and then it's like, okay, now I have to populate because like that data is new, right? Like it's not like I'm importing it from an old WordPress site or an old site somewhere. So I have to literally just like go in and start typing that stuff out. Oftentimes the client does a bunch of it, but I'll set them up as a baseline, and so it's like those are perfect times. Like I always think to really talk about that kind of thing because it's like or to listen to that kind of thing or to watch that kind of thing because you're just like you're roughly putting things in. It's not like a slip of the mouse is going to take the database down because you're literally filling in things that are like customer friendly, like they are going to go in here and like keep this database up to date, right? If their units are vacant or not vacant or the rent goes up or goes down or whatever it is that they're doing. um so like obviously it's a bit like stuff moments like that, like for sure is like a key moment. What's interesting about your like thing though is you're saying like once you get into deep work, you kind of like forget about all the stuff around you and you go in. I have like a weirder problem. So oftentimes my work, I do chip away at things. So I don't like to leave a big bulk thing at the end. So I do chip away kind of thing. But oftentimes, things will, kind of spin out of control. Maybe there's a problem or something. And then there is like a bit of a bulk at the end, like toward a deadline. And what's weird is I'll get like super worried about it in my head, and I'll be like, "Oh my god, like what am I gonna do?" And the constant noise, the constant watching keeps me level and actually raises my productivity. I don't know if I'm like at maximum productivity, but it keeps me at like a high level. Like it keeps me at a really good level. Where it's kind of something where I can go, okay, like I can I have a deadline in 2 days. There's about a day and a half worth of stuff. Instead of me worrying about the fact that there's only a half a day buffer, I just kind of like sit down, throw in like, a playlist of all the Hotel Hell episodes or whatever, Hell's Kitchen or something. And then I just like go and I don't really think about it. And it's like I'm able to like sit there longer because it's like my break time is largely me just looking over and then looking back. So, but now if I'm doing like a really complex math thing or something like that, or I'm really stumped, yeah, like the pause button comes out even in the deep work time. And it's like, okay, like I have to think about this because like this, constant chatter and like it's reality TV. So there's a bunch of like weird noises like that really annoying, like thing that they all do all the time. Like that's a bit much, obviously. But if it's something where I'm just sort of like, okay, like I know how to do this, I just need to do it. Even if I need the deep work, like I don't know, it keeps me level headed.
Yeah, and I mean, like, again, it's different for everyone. That I think that's going to be the case, and it's more important, in my opinion, rather than like min maxing productivity, to find what works for you to make it possible for you to have that cross section of being able to mostly enjoy work and work for a long time, right? Like, so if it helps you do that, I think that's what you should keep doing, and you're able to complete your work, so it's all good, even if you're sacrificing slight amount of deep work productivity or something like that. Like that, in my opinion, that's perfectly fine. For me personally, like I think my sacrifice is like so significant when I am watching something that it just doesn't make sense for me
Right.
to do that anymore. Like, and again, it's not that I haven't tried. I've tried many times to like have a show on or have a podcast on. And I've tried other things that people have suggested, like calm piano music and like game soundtracks and stuff like that. And I just like I've had a couple good sessions, honestly. Like I've had some good sessions with like a Lord of the Rings background music. I've had some good sessions with what's the game that I listened to? I think it was Witcher Three's soundtrack.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I've had good sessions with that, but they're kind of far and few between, where sometimes I'll spend more time looking for whatever my mind wants at that time than just getting down and sitting down to work. And the reason that I don't really care about it as much anymore, again, is that once I get into deep work, it all kinds of drones out. Like it doesn't matter what's playing for me because it's all just gone essentially in my head. Like I don't even hear it. And then like
Right.
2 hours later, I'll essentially wake up and be like, oh, this was playing, and like I'm done now. So like I feel like it's weird for me, but I've gotten to a point where it's okay. Um, with your data entry thing though, like when I'm doing mundane work, I do throw something on for sure, just because again, it's not something that I enjoy. So I'll just
Music
throw
or
something on.
video or both?
Video for the most part. For the
Okay.
most part, it'll be a video, and I'll just like keep an eye on the video and do the work, maybe in a slightly slower fashion, right? But what I have noticed with with AI is I would rather spend a little bit of time figuring out how I can get an AI to help me do the data entry
Okay, yeah,
these
yeah.
days, rather than actually sit down and do it, and sometimes to the detriment of that task. So most of the time, I can probably say I save some time, and especially if I can make a reusable script that will do it for me multiple times, then obviously I'll save a bunch of time. But sometimes I'll spend more time doing the actual like scripting versus what it would have taken me to just enter in like 100 like lines of a spreadsheet. So it I just find it interesting to do that now because AI
Right,
makes it
right.
so much easier to do it, and it's just like it's kind of fun. So in that way, I've gotten less and less time to like throw something on and just shut my mind off. Most of my work is either communication, which I can't really do with things on, and or like deeper work where I have to really, really think hard. So I think that's another aspect of why I just haven't been watching anything really in the background.
Well, here's a sub question for you. So, like, and I'll outline my situation. So like, I don't listen to too much music. I listen to music here and there, but I'm not like a huge music buff. Um, and I mean, I watch like a fair bit of TV and stuff, but it's mostly this background watch kind of thing at this point. But there are times where I will go toward music rather than something to watch, and I will say, like, if it's something where I find myself needing to do some deep work or just stay focused, and I find myself constantly wandering. It's like sometimes I will start using the show in the background as an excuse where I just like keep looking at it. And if I find that it's actually distracting, sometimes I'll throw some music on and it's like taking away that visual element and like turning on something that is actually like a focus playlist or something like that. Actually helps me. I mean, as the name suggests, focus and like actually kind of bring it home kind of thing. Sometimes I will do that with data entry stuff. It's kind of weird. It's like I'll use the because like when we were talking about the productivity um detriment or whatever. It's like I would without anything on, if I'm really into something, I can probably work, let's just say at for me at 100% productivity. With something on, even if I'm like in deep work, I'm at 90%. Now 10% sounds like a big cut. However, my 100% is not going to be sustained for a long time, but I can sustain 90 for a long time with something on in the background, whether that is music or otherwise.
Mhm.
It's a show probably 90% of the time, and then 10% of the time I would say it's actually music just when I really need to lock in. It's usually when it's like something stupid like it'd be so convenient to get, X done by the end of today. I might as well just do it. So I'll just like turn on a focus playlist and then I just kind of go.
So you just kind of reminded me about something, the focus playlist thing. I don't know if you've ever done it before. Have you ever tried like the gamma binaural beats, like the hums, the
Only heard of it.
different frequency hums? So I don't know if there's any science behind it. I haven't looked into it. I probably won't because I don't use it that often. But
Mm.
on YouTube, there's like these really long 2 hour, 7 hour playlists that are just these hums of like 40 hertz, 60 hertz, 20 hertz, whatever, like different hertz frequencies for different things, apparently. Again, I don't know. It might be
Yeah.
pseudoscience. I have absolutely no idea. But I have in times when I just can't focus, and I have those days where I just suck and my head is just like in a million different ways. Maybe it's because I'm just upset about something. Maybe it's because I've been distracted a million times, whatever. I just can't get into a focus state. In those situations, I have tried different things. So I'll use the Pomodoro technique for one thing. If that doesn't work, sometimes I will do this like focus music and
Okay.
focus hum. I'm not a huge fan of it from like a perspective of just having a hum in my ears all the time. Like I just, it's not a huge thing, but it has worked for me a couple times in the past like couple months. So again, I always try different things. Like I will always try different things to try to get into the zone. If I can't get into the zone at all, I'll just step back and just go for a walk or something like that because there's only so much you can do, and then I'll just work a little bit later, at night. But yeah, like I think it's really important for people out there if they're listening to this and you're like, "Hey, I can't get into the zone sometimes." Just try different things.
Yeah.
There's plenty of ways like you could watch a show like Matt's saying that could help you get to that like 90% level for 3 hours and that would be sick. Like that's a really good point, Matt. But try, try music that you don't care about. Like I feel like the more upbeat the music is for me, the worse it is. So like it's just it's kind of a shitstorm out there with different methods and gurus out there that will tell you different things. And what I found to be a 100% accurate is that nothing specific works for me all the time. So I need to have an arsenal of different tools in my belt at all times to be able to get to a place that I need to get to. So I can't rely on one productivity method to be able to get in the zone because my brain just doesn't work that way.
That's a really good call because I noticed like in the past, before I was running on shows and stuff, I was just listening to conversational podcasts, and it was just like interview shows, and just like like I don't even know who the people were, right? They could be skiers. One time it was surfers, like it just didn't matter. But the problem is I noticed that specifically if it was a guest that I was interested in, like somebody like like a tech person or whatever, gaming person, it was like I started to like listen, and then it's like okay, like I'm starting to be distracted. But I guess one question, Mike, for you is for that diurnal beats thing you were mentioning. Do you use that more? Like, is it better for you than like a focus playlist? Like, well, and by focus playlist, I mean like even when you mention like The Witcher 3, I assume it's the same type of music as like the Elder Scrolls, for example. And these are fantasy games if you're not a gamer, for the listener out there, where like it's just sort of like very orchestral, you know, in the background, you're kind of wandering around like a fantasy world. Generally, that's what the music is like. And I kind of consider that kind of music to be like focus music as well.
So lately, yes. Lately the binaural beats, like the frequency beats, the frequencies, like things have been working better for me just because those epic gaming playlists, I feel like my mind wanders a little bit in them where I'm just like trying to think. I actually start thinking about the game and thinking about the fact that I
Okay.
haven't played it in a while or something like that. Like it distracts me in that way. So, and the same thing with like Lord of the Rings. Like I really like Lord of the Rings, so like I'll start thinking about that world anyway. So like it's just the hum, it's not entertaining, but it's
Right.
something that's just present and consistent in my brain that is able to keep me more focused, if that makes sense. And again,
Mhm.
this is just me, and there might not be any science behind it. I literally have not looked into it, but I just when I typed in focus the last time into YouTube, that's what popped up. I tried
Right.
it and it worked a couple times. It's worked a couple times. Now I haven't had to use it in like the last couple weeks. Because I've been fine focusing. Again, I don't go back to the same thing over and over again. I only go to it once I need it, kind of thing. So for the most part, for me, I just sit there with no music on and I just stare at my screen and work. But when I do need it, I'll try different things, and that's one of the things I tried recently.
It's really interesting, and maybe this will be a final point. This is because this is like not work related. Um, I don't do anything while I'm driving, like
I
50% of
know,
the time.
yeah, yeah, you're
I just
crazy
drive.
like that.
Like I'll just be like driving, and it'll be like halfway to Toronto, and I'll be like, oh, it's been silent in the car the whole time. Okay, and just keep driving.
So yeah, like
I don't know what
I
that's
that
about.
yeah, that freaks me out a little bit because like I like to be fair, ever since I had my daughter, a lot of times in the car she's sleeping or something like that, so I'll be doing the same thing, and then my mind wanders. So I've gotten used to that. Like I honestly, like before that, I would think you're crazy. Now I've probably done that more often than not. Honestly, where I'm just like staring at the front, just thinking about things, and then all of a sudden I'm there. Um, so yeah, I can understand it. It's just like if I had my preference, it'll always be like a podcast or an audiobook when I'm driving. Like I pretty much 90% of the time will listen to that. 10% of the time, if it's a nice road trip and if I'm going somewhere scenic, I'll throw on like some music that gives me some feelings about whatever I'm driving. Like Sam Roberts, like a bunch of Canadian music usually is what I listen to when I'm driving, if I'm driving. Tragically Hip, Sam Roberts, the Arkells. If you're listening to this and you're not from Canada, you probably don't know who those are.
Well, I mean, I can't even choose my music. I'm AM, FM. I'm in an old vehicle, so I mean, I guess I could use a CD, but I don't have those kicking around anymore either. So, yeah, I'm AM, FM, and usually if I am listening, it's like kind of rare-ish, but like usually it'll be like, well, it's not rare as I turn it on. Oftentimes it's like down at like a volume where it's background noise. So it's like I don't even know what's playing. It's like, oh, is it Taylor Swift? Like maybe, like probably if she's popular right now, whatever. But like I'm not really listening to it. It's just sort of like a background noise.
I
So
think I'd rather listen to silence than the radio at this point in my life. I listened to the radio
Well,
so much when I was commuting that I hated every minute of it that
if you're listening to it though, that makes
sure,
sense.
yes, yeah.
But
Yeah,
like
I don't know.
I'm turning it down to like, 40% volume, let's say, or something. Like low. And then it's just like if I really want to listen, I could kind of hear it, but it's just more or less like someone, doing the Charlie Brown wah wah in the background
Yeah.
constantly.
I
So
mean, especially in your car, I would say that's probably the case, and with low vol yeah, like, the engine probably sounds way louder than your radio at, like, half volume or whatever.
actually, no, I got that fixed.
Oh, damn, okay, damn, good
Yeah.
job.
But I think that's it. That concludes this edition of Web News. I hope you like this format. Trying new things kind of thing, kind of almost every week at this point. But the whole idea, again, is a concise prompt and then a nice little conversation video format on YouTube. Last week, something happened. I uploaded it to the RSS feed. I know I did because I have the link and it's just gone. I think I may have made a mistake and actually deleted what I thought was a draft and accidentally deleted the web news. It's still available on YouTube. I'll try to backdate it and fix it. So sorry about that. If you were like, what the heck happened? That was me. But this should be available on video on Spotify, I believe, but it's definitely available on YouTube slash YouTube Music if you want to listen to it or watch it there. And then it'll be available on the RSS feed. Regular episodes, if you like this, regular episodes come out on Tuesdays. Web News comes out on Wednesdays, and Thursdays we do interviews as we have them. They're not every week. But that's it. I think that concludes this episode. And thanks for hanging out in the Web News.
Goodbye.